Lesson 6.3, Surface Area and Volume. First, we need to understand the difference between area, surface area, and volume so that we know what we're talking about. Area is a two-dimensional measurement of the amount of flat space taken up by a shape or an object, like a piece of paper. Measurement is calculated in units squared, and it's literally the number of squares that will cover the space. So if I was looking for the area of a rectangle, and I divided it into equal sized squares, it would be the number of squares that we had. Surface area is a two-dimensional measurement of the amount of flat space taken up by the surfaces of a three-dimensional object. So, for example, a box. The measurement is also calculated in square units, but imagine you are wrapping a present, and instead of overlapping at the ends and on the seam the way we normally do, where we make the triangles and we tape it together, if you were to cut the paper so that when you came up the sides, it met evenly on each corner or edge, and there were no overlaps, the surface area would be the amount of that paper you had. Volume is a three-dimensional measurement of the amount of space an object takes up. Again, a box. Or we can talk about the amount of fluid that would fill a container. That's also volume. The measurement is calculated in cubic units. So if you had a bunch of little cubes, all one each, how many would fill up the space? So the number of cubes that would fill the space. To calculate the surface area of three-dimensional objects, we have some formulas. Rectangular prism is the technical name for a box. A rectangular prism has a length and a width and a height. And the formula for the surface area is here. This is surface area. And our formula is 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the height times the width plus 2 times the length times the height. Now you can see we have three things, length, width, and height, and we do length times width, length times height, and width times height. Everything gets multiplied together at least once, and then we have the 2's. So this is the formula that you'll use to calculate the surface area of a box. For a cylinder, which is like a can, we have a radius and a height. Our radius is half of the distance across the center of the circle, and the height is the height of the can. Our formula for surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Remembering that pi is approximately 3.14, so that's what we'll use in the calculations. R is the radius, and h is the height. So let's find surface areas. Let's start with a can. Remember surface area is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. I plug in 3.14 for r. My radius is 5 inches, so times 5 squared plus 2 times 3.14 times my radius again, times my height, which is 7 inches. Okay, multiplying this out. Exponents come first in my order of operations and then multiplication. So I'll do 5 squared first. And here I've got a bunch of multiplications, so I'm going to multiply the first 2 and the second 2, so I'll have 6.28 times 35. 6.28 again times 25. This will give me 157 plus 219.8, which will give me a surface area of 376.8 inches squared. Because remember, our units are always going to be square when we're talking about area or surface area. Now let's try a box. Remember, our formula for surface area is 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length and the height, and 2 times the height times the width. It doesn't really matter which order, so long as you have length times width, length times height, and height times width. And each of these can be length or width or height. We'll go ahead. I'll call this length, I'll call this width, then I'll call this height, though that's not really terribly important, just as long as you always use the same one for each. So I'm going to have 2 times 5 times 8 plus 2 times 5 times 4 plus 2 times 4 times 8. So 10 times 8 plus 10 times 4 plus 8 times 8. 80 plus 40 plus 64. So 40 and 64 is 104, plus 80 is going to give me 184 centimeters squared. We'll try another box. Surface area is 2 times the length times the width, 2 length height, 2 height width. Again, we need to figure out which is which, so I'm going to call this length, I'll call this width, and I'll call this height. So my length is 7, my width is 4, length is 7, height is 10, height is 10, width is 4. So I have 14 times 4 plus 14 times 10 plus 20 times 4. So I have 56 plus 140 plus 80 to give me 276 centimeters square. And finally, we have another cylinder. Sorry, that overlapped. Two pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. 2 times 3.14. My radius is 8. Plus 2 times 3.14 times 8 times 15. 2 times 3.4 is 6.28. 8 squared is 64. And I have 6.28 times 8 times 15 is 120. So that's going to give me 401.92 plus 753.6, which will give me 1,155 and 52 centimeters squared. Let's find some volume now. We have formulas for this as well. Again, we have a box. The volume is the length times the width times the height. So we have length times width times height. For a cylinder, we have volume is equal to pi r squared h. So it's pi times the radius squared times the height. So let's do some examples of finding volume. I'm just going to bring them all up this time. Okay, so our volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So I have 3.14 times my radius of 5 squared times my height of 7. So it's 3.14 times 25 times 7, and then I can multiply all three of those together. So I'll say 3.14 times 25 times 7, and I will get 549.5 inches cubed. Now in volume, don't forget we have cube units. Okay, the volume of a box is length times width times height. Doesn't really matter which is which in this instance, so I can do just 5 times 4 times 8, which gives me 20 times 8, which will give me 160 cubic centimeters. Come down here for this box, same formula. 4 times 10 times 7. Now here's one of those instances where commutative property comes in handy. If I switch this to make it 4 times 7 times 10, then I can do this mental math in my head rather quickly and get 280 cubic centimeters. Finally, our last can, pi r squared h. So I have 3.14 times my radius of 8 squared times my height of 15. I have to square my radius first because exponents come before multiplication. Then I can multiply each of these together. 3.14 times 64 times 15, and I will get 3,014.4 cubic centimeters. Oops, cube.